Dc65, The Sacred Book of Life. Soul-touching and life-enhancing stories. The Sacred Book of Life. Our story starts in a very old village, where the houses were partially made out of stone and partially out of wood. The houses had strong wooden roofs, balconies were decorated with flowers, and the streets were paved with big cobblestones. People walked around in town, but as one looked very carefully, there was something very strange about them. They all had a strap of leather hanging on their shoulder. Attached to that was a leather pouch hanging on their hips. This leather pouch was used to store the book they always carried along. Every couple of minutes one could see somebody take out a beautiful decorated book out of their pouch, and they would stop and make notes in that book. Passing by restaurants, one would also see people at dining tables busy writing in their book and putting it back. It was everywhere. Looking in living rooms, people were writing, then talking again and writing, etc. The same was inside the offices. What was this phenomenon? At birth, everybody received their first present from town librarian and owner Mr. Bartok, a leather strap with a leather pouch. Then when the children reached the age they would read, and when they could read and write, they were allowed to go and visit Mr. Bartok and received a beautiful colored book cover with their name on it. Their name was embossed with golden letters, and for the inside they received a set of empty pages to be inserted. So what was the meaning of receiving this book? It was for them to write down the instructions Mr. Bartok gave them. Write down what you do not like, but also write down everything that you would like to have and wish for. So everybody was always busy writing, but there was something strange at the moment the children received their first set of empty pages. After returning home, they would open their book. They noticed that not all pages were empty. Several of them had been already written on. When they would sit down and read the information, they remembered that those were the things they did not like or wish for when they were younger, the time before they could read and write. It was the time before they were able to write their wishes and dislikes of life, but it seemed like an invisible pen had been writing about their first years of desires and dislikes for them. So, there was something strange to this village, to the books and to those people walking around with them. There was not really a bound between people. People were not really talking and caring about each other because everybody was constantly interrupted and busy with writing in their book. Everybody lived in their own world. This was as it was, but seemingly nobody was living life in the present and accepting and appreciating life and one another. By writing what you don't like is basically judging and complaining, and writing what you want is living in the future, desiring and waiting for it to happen. People believed that something had to come to them that would change their life and would make the things come through which they were writing about. There was an old story going around in the village which everybody thought was the solution to all. The story was about the sacred book of life, and that gave everybody hope. When one would go on a quest and discover this book, everything you would read, word by word, sentence by sentence, would instantly reveal itself. It would happen at that very moment. You could taste, smell, hear and see everything written in that book. Needless to say, everybody dreamed about finding the sacred book of life. The sacred book of life was in their mind the solution to all the problems they had. Our story really starts in this village with the family Rochelle, a family of artists, Mother Sarah, Father Claude, and their child Yvette. Sarah was a painter and dress designer, Claude a sculptor and woodworker, and all three of them had a little strap around their shoulders with a pouch around their waist with their book inside, just like everybody else. However, instead of writing a lot, these three people made a lot of drawings, sketches of the things they were to sculpt, make, paint, and build. Sometimes this was not to the liking of Mr. Bartok, who saw this when they returned their book when all the pages were full and receiving a new set of empty pages. One summer, when planning for their family vacation, Sarah had made a suggestion to the other family members. She proposed to not write or draw anything for a while and have a real vacation. To not be thinking about anything and to not write or sketch at all was the plan. They all agreed, and that summer they had the most special adventure they ever experienced. Their books were placed somewhere safe in their house, but they kept wearing their pouches in order not to get any questions. They walked through their village, and this was the first time that it really dawned on them that it was strange business they were all engaged in. They observed people constantly stopping what they were doing to make notes of their likes and dislikes. It did not matter if they were in traffic, in conversation, taking a bath, or while eating. This was the first time they paid attention to that, because up till now they had been busy with the same thing, even though they did not write in their books but had the same pattern, not living in the present. They talked about it and thought that they were living in a strange world. They felt that maybe the sacred book of life would have all the answers to this as well. They could not figure out what exactly was going on in their world. Yvette suggested that maybe they should go in search for the book. One afternoon on their vacation, from their book, they ended up at the flower store of Vivi Reveille. She picked flowers in the wild, and everyone knew she had also some private gardens close to the singing forest. Her flowers were just out of this world. Their eyes feasted on the colors and variety. Vivi Reveille had everything available, not to forget to mention the smell of all these flowers, which was magical. They were mesmerized and fascinated by the combinations of colors and scents that they spent several hours in her flower shop. Because of their long visit, they got to know Vivi a little better. Vivi was an elderly lady who always smiled and was gentle in her ways. To their surprise, she invited them to her private garden, where she planted all her flowers. Almost at the end of having spent all these hours, they realized that Vivi had not been taking out their book of the leather pouch at all, and had not stopped to write anything. She was such a happy, gentle, and peaceful person, and then they figured it out. And Sarah asked her, "You are so content. Have you found the sacred book of life?" Vivi looked at her for a short moment and said, "I have to be honest. Yes, I have found the sacred book of life." "Can you show it to us?" "No, I'm sorry, I can't. This book is invisible and is my personal book." "Then there is no hope for us," stated Yvette. "You have found the book, so it cannot be found anymore. It is in your possession." "No, no, no, please, do not misunderstand. The sacred book of life is a book for each individual person, and each can find the sacred book, but must be ready for it." A big sigh came from the family Rochelle, and their hearts felt lighter. "Vivi, You must know where we can find our sacred books, because you have found yours. It is in the village, with the mystical gardens, which are located behind the singing forest, Vivi responded. I can bring you there, she continued, and I see you are not carrying your books, and during your visit here you also have not stopped to make notes. I have the strong feeling that you are ready for it. The singing forest and having to go through it scares me. There are so many stories of the dangers awaiting anyone going through the singing forest. There are constant sounds coming out of there, and we heard of people disappearing, spoke Yvette. Oh, dear child, these are all talks of people who have never been even close to the singing forest. Believe me, it is really a beautiful forest. Tomorrow morning, if you want, we'll all make the journey. Pack some stuff to eat on the road and meet me here before opening hours. The next morning, with a lot of provisions and excitement in their hearts, the group of four started their journey. Yvette made sure, again by asking Vivi, "You are sure that it is not dangerous for us to go into the singing forest?" And then Vivi answered gently, "No, Yvette, these are all just rumors. You must know that anything that is unfamiliar and unknown to people, they become scared about. And when people are scared, they make up stories." As they entered the singing forest, an incredible peace came over them. They all looked at each other, wondering about a beautiful sound and where the comforting breeze was coming from. What you hear is the sound of everlasting light, which is carried by the wind of eternity. For a long period there were no conversations at all. They all enjoyed this peace. After several hours of walking, with 2 rest stops in between, they ended up closer to the end of the forest. They could see more light was coming nearer or penetrating more and more through the lush green leaves of the highest trees. Let us slow down a little. Your eyes need to get used to the light. The light we will see and enter is brighter than the light we came from before entering the forest. As they stepped out of the forest, they saw fields of the most beautiful colors of flowers they had ever seen. The smell coming from them was incredible, like the ones in Vivi's shop. In the far distance they saw a rainbow, and under that rainbow a colorful village. "All you smell and see here is forever," said Vivi. "There is so much more to share with you, but let us start walking to the village to collect your sacred book of life. That is the reason why we are here, isn't it?" And the 3 agreed. The village itself was more beautiful than all the fields they had seen combined. The houses were covered with beautiful vines and flowers. The smell was incredible. The streets looked like flower beds. When walking on the streets, the flowers did not even get trampled and died. This was truly magical. The people who walked around in this village had flower bands in their hair, and clothes were covered with flowers. They were greeted by everyone who saw them by making full contact with their eyes. Big smiles on their faces, everyone seemed to be content and happy here. They noticed nobody had this leather strap and pouch on them. Nobody was writing in a book. "These people must all have found their sacred books," spoke Claude. "Correct. But let us go to the town library to collect your sacred books of life." As they entered the huge building, they could not believe their eyes. It was so big in size. There were halls and halls and floors, all packed with books. Books were there everywhere they looked. The 3 newcomers looked around, but did not see anyone to help them. After a minute, Claude called out, "Hello, is there anyone to help us?" And suddenly Vivi spoke. "Yes, Claude, I am here to help you. I am the librarian of this special library." This was a complete surprise for them. "Why did you tell us? Why didn't you tell us?" Why should I? There was no need for it. So here you are, where you wanted to be, and now let me go and find your sacred books of life. Wait a minute, said Sarah. You told us that the sacred books of life are invisible. But here you can see all the books. Well noticed. They are visible on this side of the singing forest, but when leaving the singing forest, they become invisible. Oh wow, that is pretty magical. Vivi disappeared, but not for long. After a couple of minutes she came back with 3 beautiful books with beautiful covers in her hand. She laid them down on the counter. Their names were on the cover in golden letters. Beneath it, their date of birth and the ending date of their lives. But for whatever reason, neither of them freaked out seeing their day of departure. They did not worry about that and felt very peaceful inside. Then Vivi continued, "These books, which are kept here, are actually copies of your original sacred books of life. But where are the originals then? Look, just look inside your leather pouch." As they looked, they saw their book of life, their sacred book of life. Not many people have found out that this book is invisible and is already in your personal pouch. Everybody, and even you, have put the book of Mr. Bartok in the pouch and being busy with that one only. We are only aware of Mr. Bartok's book, unfortunately. As they opened their books and read through them, they understood that everything that had taken place in their life was written. They went on scanning through chapter after chapter. At last they ended up on the page, reading all that what was happening just right now at that very moment, standing in the library. All the stuff they were seeing, thinking, and experiencing. "You see," said Vivi, "this is true magic of the sacred book of life." They looked further, but the rest of the pages were all empty. Again Vivi stepped in. "Yes, this is the sacred book, and everything will reveal itself moment by moment, word by word, sentence by sentence as we go through life. And there is no need to know the future, although it is already written and unchangeable." Oh, but that is boring, isn't it? Knowing you cannot change anything and it feels like not wanting to do anything anymore, replied Sarah. We cannot escape from what is written. We will have to go through it anyway. We can do this as good actors, playing our roles well and adjusting to the circumstances. We can make attempts to better our situation, but we have to do this without any expectations, otherwise we are trapped in the future. But we can definitely change our attitude and perspective at any given circumstance. That is the power we all have and must never give up. We can also go through life complaining, forgetting to live life in the moment and being busy writing new books. The real secret of the sacred book of life is to live our life we all have right now, and an adventure which we can enjoy, but almost nobody wants to be busy with it. We all write our new books and complain about the things we do not like and where we wish for. So everybody is just writing new books for the future, said Claude. Correct, said Vivi. But why is Mr. Bartok, our librarian, not aware of this? Why does he not tell us? He does not know himself, answered Vivi. And what happens with the books everybody is writing in? Asked Yvette. The pages we constantly return to, Mr. Bartok. Oh, after a person dies, I pick up the pages they have been written during their lives. Mr. Bartok is always in need of space and happy to give these away. These books end up here in my library. Everybody is only busy with writing new books. The real magic is reading and being content with your personal book, which is the sacred book. So, said Claude, so there are maybe more books to be read in the future. That I cannot tell. It should be enough for you to occupy yourself with reading the book you have now. Anyway, the three of you were not writing too much in the books anyway. You use the books for more practical reasons. Just accept your book you are holding right now and live a content life. But watch out for writing in Mr. Bartok's books. It's a foolish game, which takes you away from reading the book you have now. So you cannot live your life fully and maybe risk to come back and read your new books and maybe get trapped again in your wishes, wants and complaints. Maybe these new books become part of the next generation of unfulfilled wishes. Anyway, why not just being content with the book we have right now? Why not take full responsibility for all that will happen in our life? But who wrote the book we are reading in this life? Asked Yvette. The parents looked at each other and answered, I think we ourselves wrote our books before we came to the world, spoke Claude. When we do not accept everything that is written, we stay victims of circumstances, added Vivi. And I realized that now, said Sarah, that as long as we point our finger to anything on the outside, we stay victims. We stay dependent on outside actions, which make us unhappy or sad, healthy or sick. This view on life makes us completely dependent and takes all the power away, in which case we stay victims again. We are the creators of our own lives, and to admit that gives us power, and to blame something or somebody else for anything takes our power away, or better said, we give our power away. Can we come and live here in this beautiful and peaceful place? Yvette asked, to pause all the talking. I saw this longing in your eyes when you were walking through the streets. Please do not get carried away. Remember to be happy with what you just found, a treasure, your sacred book of life, and be busy with that. And Sarah interrupted, but Vivi. No buts, said Vivi. Just start fully enjoying your books. But I still want to ask that when things come in our book we don't like at all, what do we do? Just accept everything and keep reminding yourself that it is written by yourself somewhere in the past. Knowing this, it is easier to accept whatever you have to read and experience in your life. Or maybe God, the All-Knowing, wrote your book. Or maybe it was a book of inheritance of the generation before. Or a combination. It all doesn't matter, said Vivi. Just fully accept your book, or you will become discontent. I do not want to be discontent with anything anymore that is written in my book, said Claude. Me too, spoke Sarah and Yvette at the same time. That's a good attitude, spoke Vivi. Your reward will not only be living your life in full, but when nothing is written for the future, you may come to live here. Then their eyes started to shine. What about the books of the others in the village? Do not worry about them. When their time comes, when they wish and complain less, they too will end up here. In this magical world you are experiencing right now, time does not exist. This means that it is never too late to end up here. After spending some time in the village with people who were so happy and content, they were all guided back by Vivi through the singing forest to their home village. While getting closer to their village, their visible sacred book of life became invisible again. Back at the village, they continued to live a very content life, and never went back again to Mr. Bartok. When they had difficulties with their thoughts or periods in their life, they went to Vivi Reveille in her flower shop, for advice. Then something very special happened to the three of them on their last day of their life in the village. Each one on their own time woke up the last morning, and their invisible book had become visible again, and they were able to read the last page. This was a special privilege, and in all three books the same information appeared. Before my last breath, I will go to Vivi Reveille, and she will guide me through the singing forest to live forever in the village of everlasting flowers. There will be no books for me to read after this, as I have found my true home in paradise. What the story could bring us. When we would accept our book fully, we would not miss anything and would feel content. We would be accepting all that what is happening and using all our energy to adapt to the circumstances, and to not have complaints, blame, or wish for a better life, which all makes us into victims.